We have Ryan Hassan in the studio. Thanks for joining us, Ryan.
Pleasure to be here, guys. Thanks for having me.
Now, Ryan, you are a reformed drug addict.
Correct.
So firstly, congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because you look amazing. Fit, fabulous, clean. How long have you been clean?
It's about 2.5, 3 years. I'm not a day counter, but it's around that time, yeah.
Gee. Now, I want to start with the question. Firstly, what was your drug of choice? What were you addicted to?
I tried pretty much everything throughout my time, but when I was sort of full-blown addict, everyday user, it was ice, which is methamphetamine, and GHB every day.
Now, this is, I mean, we've got such an ice meth epidemic here, even in our own city. And I've never tried ice. I hear all about it. I'm going to ask a question that might seem really naive, and I don't even know if you can answer it. What does it feel like?
When it comes to ice, it's a central nervous system stimulant. So you get a sense of euphoria when you first use, and there's just a lot of energy, a lot of motivation. It works on the neurotransmitter dopamine, which is our reward circuitry. So there's general sort of ways that it feels in that way, but then it also comes down to the person. Because the truth is, there's a big myth about sort of addiction that we have that drugs in of themselves are addictive, when it's simply not the case. That if it was, then every single person that used drugs would become addicted, right? But the stats about between 10 and 20%. It's around 15% of people who start using a drug will then become addicted.
What was your lowest point? What's something you're not proud of that happened?
Plenty of stuff. There was a couple of moments. You know, the worst period for me was probably a 6-month period where I was using every day. I was dealing to support my habit. I'd shut out my close friends and my family, which I'm really close with my family. So that was really strange because I had so much guilt and shame. Like, addiction is driven by guilt and shame. And even when we look at an addict, you might look at them and go, oh, they don't care, they're selfish. I promise you they are not. They're walls that we put up to protect ourselves. So during that 6-month period, I mean, there was overdoses nearly every week on GHB. One when I was at the wheel of my car. I was arrested twice, spent a couple of nights in remand. So probably one of those low moments was sitting in a cell by myself looking at that white wall thinking, how the hell did I end up here?
Jonathan in Reservoir. Hi, Jonathan.
Hi. I just wanted to know, how much do you think you spent in total on drugs?
Yeah, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
wow.
This might be confronting for you.
Yeah, no, I have. I wrote a blog about it once, but I think during the worst of it, I was spending, it was I think $500 to $600 a day on drugs,
man.
worth of drugs. Now I was obviously dealing drugs to support my habit, like 99% of dealers are trying to fund their own habits.
How did you get off the
How'd I
drugs? How
off
did
the
you get off
drugs?
it?
So basically I had a few rock bottom moments, which were trying to wake me up and tell me that this life wasn't sustainable.
How many?
A dozen maybe, and it's funny, each supposed rock bottom just tends to get worse and worse. It's like there's a part of us trying to wake us up to say, oi mate, come on, get your shit together. So basically I got arrested the second time and said this life isn't really sustainable. So I looked up rehab. I looked up private rehab, which was $30,000+. I couldn't afford that, didn't want to put that on my parents. Public rehab in Victoria was a 6-month waiting list. It's still about that at the minute, and I didn't have 2 or 3 months, let alone 6 months. So I did a home-based detox through a government company. You get a care and recovery worker, psychologist, doctor, but you do it from home. So I was clean for 12 days, but I didn't address any of the reasons why I was an addict in the first place. We can stop taking the drug, but if you don't address the underlying reasons, you'll go back to it and go back to it, or just swap it up for something else. I relapsed for a week, and that was the most important week of my life. I got reconnected with an old acquaintance from like a couple of years ago who was a therapist. It was quite a strange story how I got into her office, but I went into her office one day on a Friday. I was about 13, 14 kilos lighter than when she'd seen me last. She had no idea I was an addict. I had no idea what she did. I spent 3 hours in her office, and I knew after those 3 hours I never needed to use drugs again. And we spoke about drugs for about 2 to 3 minutes. The rest of it was addressing the underlying emotional trauma that I had throughout my life that I hadn't processed and hadn't handled. Right. And I was able to release that, make peace with my marriage breakdown, and for the first time actually love myself for who I was.
Oh, Ryan, you should be so proud of yourself, and now I know you are helping others.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much for being an open book,
Thanks,
Ryan.
Riser.